Todd Medina, SoulogyOneStudios. What's going on here? Democracies, aristocracies, oligarchies, monarchies, hierarchies, presidents, and popes. What's the real dope? What's this all about? Faith, hope, doubt? That's all that earth stuff, man. I am a multi-dimensional, high-vibrational, evolutionary being, and I'm tired of hiding it. I am soul. I don't care who or what tried or is trying to deceive us. Call it the devil or another's Messiah, prophet, or God. It's all the same to me. Whoever they are, they can never take our souls, and that's when we came here to learn. From the burn of being wrong, denying who we are, taking orders, lawless laws, a branded existence, but not anymore. I am divinity. Yeah. All right. The power we hold to mold the future, heavenly nirvana. From the inside, present, eternal. It's time to be a bolder flame. The game isn't the same. We are the spirit science synthesis, the action of conscious thought, alignment, transmuting to a living wisdom. Yeah. No longer dreaming the life, I am living the dream. How's it going, everybody? Hey, Yukia, what's happening? I'm working on that for you. We're going to get that worked out. Hello, Rachel Violet Scott. Oh, still got the music going. That was our beautiful sister, Amanda Lawrence. All right. So, yeah, we're waiting on our guest. He is having to download Google Chrome, but we got all the time in the world. We're not running on linear, and we're not prisoner to anything linear. So we're going to get this thing going here in a little bit. Hello, Chelsea. How are you doing? Hello, Wendy Hall Umstead. What's going on? Long time no see. Jenna Harmon, Sydney, Australia's in the house. Jennifer Ernest, flexing her biceps. We just had a great show. If y'all didn't get to see it, please watch the replay with Greg Prescott, a pioneer in these Lightkeeper circles, and Michelle Walling, a pioneer in her own right. It was very good. As we've discovered in these shows, this would be the 657th, I believe. Hey, Jody Lee, what's going on? Thank you for putting it out there every day. Hello, Jerry Boyle. But what we've learned is that the greatest activations we can have are in these real-time intel discussions where we share what's going on in the moment. And whether you're watching the live or the replay, this is how this all goes down. Hello, Diane McLaughlin. Thank you for all your love and support. Marie de France. Aline, what's going on? Stavanger, Norway. That's right. Bo James is in the house. Got 39 people. Let's see here. Let me see. Wait a minute. That's not working. Hang on. Hang on a second. We're having a little bit of a issue here. So let me see here. I'm gonna give him a call. Just bear with me a second. All right. Let's see here. Hang on one second. We'll get it worked out. We always do. Let's see here. Oh, there he is. Okay, we're good. Okay, there he is. Hang on now. All right, now, just in typical Soulogy style, we're going to do this without having even met each other. What's going on, brother?
Just came to talk about the density shift and kind of what we're going through.
Yeah. I got you. I got you. So there's some a lot of new faces in here. I think they may be people connected to you. Irene Matakasis, John Montgomery's in the house, Kirsty Belleville, Angel Divine's here. There's quite a few people in the house. I think we've got about 40 some odd people. Let me just
That's
get
not
this.
that surprising. I haven't done an interview in a long time, so
Oh, I didn't know that you'd done any. I thought this was one of your first ones. So
it's
you have
been
done
about
some.
10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Well, that doesn't count.
Yeah,
That
it's a whole
was
different
like,
world back then for
yeah,
sure.
this is the ascension, man. So this is like 10 years is like, 10 past lives ago. All
Yeah,
right.
amen to that.
So yeah, let's go ahead and roll it out. So there is some new faces. There's Mary Wilson Flynn from Orlando. Rachel Violet Scott says hello to Jason. Jennifer Ernest is here. My name's Todd Medina. This is Soul Speaks 5D. This is our primary broadcasting vehicle on the Soulogy network. And I started talking to this gentleman a few days ago, or actually, I think it was more than that, but we finally reconnected a few days ago. And, I asked him what he wanted to talk about. And he says this is what it is. It's about the density shift and history of it, what is next for the human race, and the body as a child. Okay, so let me just welcome Jason Estes to Soul Speaks 5D. Thank you for sharing space and honoring us with your presence today, my brother.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad that I was able to get on this platform to kind of explain what's going on.
Now, let me ask you this to start off with, because in reading your stuff, it's pretty diverse. How long ago was it that you woke up, or were you always awoke?
Well, when I was 4 is when I kind of started understanding what I was here for. And as I progressed forward, I tried to go back to sleep like many other people, but there was other plans for me, so I never was able to go back to sleep. So I've been writing updates for like 5+ years. I've been teaching for about 20. And I've been here on this planet fully awake for 30 years. So,
And so, since you were 4, you're 34.
yep,
There
34.
you go. Hang on, let me get. All right. Okay. So, and let me ask you this now: the things that you're writing about and teaching, are these for the most part, if not all, coming from direct infinite intelligence? From communion, connection, whatever you want to call it.
Yes, I don't
Okay.
read books or anything like that.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And so let's start with this reference to density.
Okay.
Um, let's talk about that. I think you said the history of it too. Is that right?
Yeah, the history of it. So, what I'd like to start with is kind of explaining where we've been about 15,000 years ago to today, if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Go right ahead.
So, 15,000 years ago, Atlantis started falling apart, and that's what led us to where we are now. So, before then, we were pretty much where we're going to be in February. But then when Atlantis fell, it took a huge density shift and created all these different layers that required us to work through stuff. We forgot where we were coming from, and all that. So is it okay if I show this chart really quick just to give the people a sense for what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
But just clarify one thing that you said, because I don't want to forget it. I'm going to put you on the screen by yourself when you put that up, and your voice will still be heard. I won't be on it. But you said that Atlantis had gotten to the point where we're going to be at in February. Is that what you said?
Yes, the high
Oh,
point of Atlantis. And February 18th is we'll be in the same level of consciousness as a planet. Not as a race, but as a planet.
okay. All right. So I'm going to put you up there so you can show people what you're talking about.
Okay. Let me just get this real quick. So is that visible? Can everybody see that?
You can bring it closer if you want. Yeah.
I'm not very good at this whole part of it because it's like glitching, but that's why I sent it to you, was because I was hoping we could like
Oh,
post it.
hang on a second. You sent it to me?
Yeah, it's on your Facebook. It'd be
It's,
easier if it was up because then people
I
could see
can
it.
put it on there. Is it on
Oh yeah,
Messenger?
that would be great. Thank you.
Is it on Messenger?
Yeah, it's on the messenger. It was the thing I sent you right
Okay.
before we went live.
Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. It looks a little different because that one looks black and white. The one you sent me had some color to it, I think. Let me see here. Hang on. I got it. I got you covered.
All right,
I know you.
awesome. That'll make it easier for people to kind of
All right.
follow
Hang on
along.
now. Let me go over here. Let me turn on the desktop screen and I'm going to bring it on now. All right. So I'm going to put this on the screen and I'm going to change it to that. Okay. You should be able to see it there now.
Yeah. Everybody else able to see it too? Then we
Yeah.
can go ahead and begin. So what you're looking at is the astral cities and the celestial cities and then the God realm. And the important part of understanding why this is so important is when Atlantis fell, it created this major shift where all these dark dimensional energies and entities came in and started taking over things. It reset consciousness as we know it. A few people were able to escape, but for the majority of people, they got lost in this karmic loop. So that process of breaking out of that required us to build these cities in the different dimensions. And each one of these density shifts that have occurred since 1987 have led us to this point. So up until 1987, 15,000 years worth of experimenting and learning had to take place. But in 1987, the very beginning of ascension started. Now, what's important to understand is we're not the only ones on the planet trying to make the world a better place. There are lots of other people on the planet trying to make the world a better place, just like there are a lot of people on the planet who don't want the world to be a better place.
Now, are you talking people or other types of species?
Species, people, entities. We'll talk about the different extraterrestrial races when we get into the higher levels of the cities, because they also are playing a part in this process.
Now, each one of these little figures, symbols with the three triangles is a city.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. And I just want to, because I'm looking at the phone and I'm not sure they can't see it. So I just want to show them there's at the bottom, it's astral cities, the bottom three. The first one says 1987, victimizer contracts, 2008, victim contracts, 2015, suffering contracts. And then the next one is celestial astral bridge service contracts, November 21st, 2018.
Yeah, that's what just took place. And that's one of the reasons why I'm able to finally come back online and tell people about what's going on is it's safe to do so. So for the longest time, those who held a lot of the secrets and the wisdom of this world have kind of stayed hidden. It wasn't time for them to come out and to start sharing. And the golden age of consciousness is dawning in February. So finally, it's time to come out into the world and start to share what's been going on behind the scenes for so long.
Very cool. And so as we get into what would be the 5th, 6th, and 7th from the bottom, they're classified as pure celestial cities, alchemy, and grand alchemists. Now, is that lower one in that group February of 2019?
Yeah, so right now we're in a density shift and it ends February 18th of 2019. So that last city, the bridge city that holds the last astral bastion is coming to a close. But also service as a way of being is coming to a close. And that's another thing that I wanted to kind of address from the beginning to get to, because it's very important you understand the history of why these things are the way they were.
Okay.
So in order to complete a karmic contract in life, there are 4 main ways to do it: service, suffering, service, alchemy, and the grand alchemist. And if you're trying to complete karma, those are the only ways to do it. For the longest time on this planet, 15,000 years, suffering was the only option. So if you wanted to complete contracts, you had to come in and you had to suffer through them. That's how we gained enough wisdom to eventually move to a place where service was possible. And in order to gain contracts through service, you simply help someone in suffering by serving them, and then you were able to learn about their suffering without having to go through it. So it was a whole new process, and it was a huge revolution. And that happened in 1987 when we started getting into a place where service was enough for us to heal. So a lot of people began to step into this service role, started teaching, consciousness shift happened. It was huge. And that happened in 1987. The reason, though, is in 1987, if you look, that victimizer contract went away. So what that means is, for the very first time ever, the need to victimize another was no longer a contract necessary to incarnate onto Earth. Which means that all the misunderstandings relating to being a victimizer had been completed from a celestial perspective. It was no longer needed in the astral plane. It was no longer needed on the Earth. That did not mean that the people on the Earth had finished their contracts. So the reason that density shifts are so powerful is it gives you an opportunity to do something called a renegotiation, which gives you the ability to say, okay, these contracts, they don't serve me anymore. They don't serve the earth anymore, and they're not serving the cities anymore. So there's no need for me to carry these contracts. So I'm going to renegotiate them and basically let them go.
Okay.
So that's what happens every density shift.
And each one of these represents a density shift.
Yes.
Okay.
So then in 1987, that density shift took place. It got knocked out by 1995 on the Earth because there was a counterforce that was playing against it to make sure that humanity wouldn't make it where they needed to go. So in 1995, they launched a huge campaign and found a way to cover it up by creating enough images in people's minds that they were no longer able to be free enough to go through that. If you look at TV and the way the TV went into in 1995, more graphic, much more detailed, a lot more victim and victimizer drama, but very intensely. It was a huge change in the way that we did things. Facts were no longer relevant. We went into more of an influence and celebrities talking about certain things that weren't even factual. Everything changed. And then that was the 90s. So then we finally get to a place, though, it was supposed to happen pretty much around 2000, but it didn't. So it happened again in 2008. We were a few years late, but we were able to break through the need for victims. So now, instead of the space of needing to have victims and victimizers on the planet, all the new incarnates that are coming down aren't needing those contracts anymore. So why is this such a big deal? Because duality, as we understood it, is no longer necessary. And that was when the war for consciousness was won, was 2008. And everything began to change. We began to see authenticity as a concept starting to enter, not into the mainstream, but slowly but surely it was starting to come together. The high-level technologies that people couldn't afford were beginning to become more mainstream and more affordable. And that's in the spirituality like Reiki and other things like that. And then we move into the next density shift that happened in 2015. More facilitators came on the scene in 2015 and like starting in 2014 than we've ever had. That was a major win for us. The war was over. And in 2015, you have all these different healers. Everybody's waking up. It's just like popcorn, right? Spirituality is now a concept that's in mainstream media. Actors, actresses, they're talking about their spiritual process. Like it's happening, right? And that's that boiling point where we finally cross over the threshold and we technically ascend as a society from 3D to 4D. And that's a win. So now in this point, though, you're looking at service, right? And service as a platform for the average person is wanting to be of service. That doesn't mean everyone, but the average person. When we come into that crossover, everything begins to change. People start to be more open. The media basically tries to hide it, but if you go out into the world, you'll find that people are more open than they've ever been. Yeah. They constantly become more open than they've ever been. Well, the winning strategy of what one huge just happened a few days ago, November 21st. At that point, we finish suffering as a totality. It is no longer necessary to be in suffering. There's a choice now, a very real choice. And that's the win that we have. So now we're sitting here with service contracts no longer being required. So what does that mean? And I've seen this a lot with a lot of my clients and a lot of my students. They're learning to be in the world as an alchemist. What does it mean to be an alchemist? Well, it means to not be in obligation. It means to be in total choice, but it also means a new concept, exploring. What does it mean to explore? How many people on this planet have ever had the opportunity to take a moment to actually explore? Most people just follow a mission.
Yeah.
But now we're finally to a place where we can start to explore. And when we explore, that's when we begin to flourish. As a human race, as a being, it doesn't matter. Exploration leads to the wisdom that unlocks us.
Yeah. That's that curiosity of the natural nature that we are, right? Absolutely. Now that November 21st, 2018, it says service, but where you're now is that saying service is no longer needed, or are we entering a phase where it's service to the collective?
So Service is no longer needed from the perspective of what service is. Service is a mission-oriented task. You need something, I'm going to give it to you, right? So that's service. Exploration is you need something, but what you're needing isn't what you're saying you need. So I'm going to explore with you and we're going to find what you actually need. So instead of Band-Aids, we're actually able to finally say, what do we really need? What do we really want? Who are we really? And that's the first time that humanity has gotten to have that opportunity. Like in the high levels of Atlantis before it crashed, this is an unprecedented time. We are finally capable of having our own choice. And we don't have beings and other forces keeping us from that choice. But the major part about why this is such a big deal is you'll see that says the celestial astral bridge.
Yes.
What that means is this is the last bastion of the astral, the last misunderstanding. So the astral planes were created from misunderstanding the celestial. So when celestial frequencies come down, they have to be translated through the astral. By the time that we get them, we only have fragments. Then we spend years trying to figure out what those fragments are, and then eventually we finally get the full truth. But imagine a world where that misunderstanding isn't the translator anymore. That's February 18th. The reason that that's in red is because this is still in process. When this is done on February 18th, the density shift will be over. We'll be coming to this place of alchemy as a race. We'll be in this place of exploration. We'll be out of this mission orientedness and finally be able to, instead of having on task, the exploration of everything. And since it's a new way of being, it's going to require all of us to change the way that we look at the world. The perspective shift from needing to suffer, needing to serve, to being ready to change, to just show up and see where it takes us. Which is why it was so perfect that there were so many glitches and errors and trying to get to talk to you today, is because here I am just showing up, right? Like we didn't have time to prep or anything.
Yes, which is, there's alchemy and magic in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, because I'm talking about alchemy today.
Now the ones on the lower half of the page with the red number or years and the one that has the date November 21st, 2018. Would it be safe to say that these things happened? You talk about renegotiating these contracts, each one of us. Would it be safe to say that these things occurred energetically first and then later on the timeline?
Absolutely. Yes. Okay.
So that's how, in a way, I guess that's how you have the intel that February 18th is the first alchemy city.
Yeah.
A pure celestial city. Right.
Yeah, it's the first pure celestial.
So does that, okay, let's try to break this down a little bit for me and maybe a few
and everyone else. Yeah. Oh, it works.
Yeah. So we were in suffering, service, and now we go into, we were astral cities, celestial astral bridge, and now we go into the first pure celestial city, February 18, 2019, and the key word there is alchemy. So what I'm saying is, as an example, prior to or up to this point, before February 18th, people talk about channeling, downloads, transmissions. I think in your explanation, this was a methodology that we had to use because the astrals were created because of the fact that we pulled away from the celestial. Is that right? Okay. And so now, as we go into February 18th and beyond, are we going to see less, or is that going to diminish and go away, the downloading, channeling, transmissions, and that type of thing as we move into a telepathic collective consciousness? Is that how that works?
In a lot of ways, yes. So first of all, everyone that is in a human form on this planet has an opportunity to renegotiate. So there are going to be people who just don't want to. They don't think they're worthy of it, whatever it is that comes up for them, their own process. So they won't be able to. But you are going to see the children that are born are going to be born full celestial. The last time this happened was the beginning of Lemuria, like long ago, pre-Atlantis. So the fact that we have beings coming down that are in 5 to 8D coming to the Earth means that each time they come down, it spikes the energy of the planet. Each baby being born right now from November 21st at 11 p.m. Hawaiian time to now, every child that was born with celestial frequencies. full on.
Wow.
So the planet is being seeded with these high level beings now. So 10 years from now, we're looking at an avatar planet. And that's one of the reasons why this is such a big deal. When a planet ascends, it ascends the universe, because everything in the universe can ascend with it. So for instance, right now, Venus used to be the ascended master planet. It was the place where all the ascended masters gathered. It's ascending to the God realm. So it will actually be in the God realm on February 18th, and we will be the new ascended planet. So every being that comes here will be an ascended master or a being in the celestials coming into ascended mastery. It's a huge, huge change in the way that we function as a society. And a lot of the things in this world were designed in a lineage system because of the transmutation and the translation coming through. So to take a moment to kind of understand that, if an ancient teacher wanted to teach something, but wanted to make sure it stayed, it had to be taught through students in a lineage, right? And eventually it got to where you are now in this timeline. But there's a process of every misunderstanding that was part of that lineage coming through. So they might have said the color blue, and by the time you got it, you got red.
Yeah.
You didn't know the difference behind it. Or if it was a physical technique and it was transferred down, you don't know why you're doing this certain mudra or thing, right? You just know that it helps. But the first person that they taught everything to. So that's how I describe the astral. The celestial beings were like, hey, go left. And by the time it got to Earth, people were like, so you want me to go right? And that led to lots of confusion and chaos on the planet. As we get closer to that point, the direction and that connection are going to be higher than ever. So for the people who do renegotiate and do say, hey, I don't need these contracts, I don't need these misunderstandings anymore, you're looking at a radical change. By February, these people could be dead on clear, not channeling anymore, but simply understanding the infinite game that is as themselves and wanting to alchemize it into reality.
So if we drill that down to our own individual consciousness, could that be translated in a way into our daily life where we're just being straight with everybody? We're dealing with people that are straight. If they're not straight, we're not condemning them. We're not judging them. We're just saying, I don't want to deal with that frequency, and I'm going to keep on going, and exploring my truth.
Absolutely. Yes. You're going to see a lot more authenticity. That's going to be a new paradigm shift. Most people won't want to be inauthentic because they will feel that shift inside of them. Consequence for inauthentic behavior is going to be exponentially high as we progress forward. Right now, we're being asked as a planet, are we willing to make the changes? And everyone who's not willing to make the changes isn't going to survive the next shift. Because as celestial light comes through.
What does that mean? They won't be able to survive physically?
It could be that. It could also simply mean a timeline tear where another reality is created and some people move forward and others go the other way.
That's a good
timelines
explanation.
are very unique in that way. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what it will be because everybody's still making their choices. Currently, 4.7 billion people have made their choice. And they've made their choice to move forward. That's where we're at the current number as of this call. I don't know what it'll be after. I'm hoping it raises. Every 100 people makes a big shift in the collective. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this call before February, was so that I could give people an opportunity to make a choice. Absolutely. And it's an easy choice. All you have to do is have a willingness to let go of things you don't need anymore.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds easy, but to actually make the choice is the challenge for people.
Well, I know in my own circles and in my own life, and I've watched people, some might call them wayshowers or whatever you want to call it, Blu-rays or whatever, but that's what I've watched them do. And ironically, well, I don't say ironically, but kind of validatingly, the dates you put up coincide with that. For instance, 2015. I know many people that year is when everything started to really shift, and we started to dive into this alternate reality. Like, this is real and that's not real. What we've been seeing is okay. And then, of course, what you're describing in terms of, I guess I would use the word sovereignty, self-respect, self-honor, self-love, to thine own self be true. So I'm seeing that. So I guess what's happening, or what I'm observing and what you've laid out here, is there are some people who have come down here and who are a little ahead of the game, maybe, blazing the trail?
Yeah, pioneers, definitely. The beauty of this, what I showed you here, is as a human being, regardless of the dates, you could actually have renegotiated if you completed your karmic contracts prior to that. And that's what you're calling pioneers and wayshowers. Every being that has ever been here has had an opportunity to be great. Every single one of them. They just fall under the pressure or they don't make it. And then there are some that do make it, and people call them like messiahs and avatars and ascended masters and all these other things, which basically just cause you as the being who's labeling them to disempower yourself, which makes it impossible for you to reach that greatness. And that's not what we're here to do.
Which is why the yogi guru frequency has lost so much ground and is disappearing.
It's called the lineage. Like I was saying before, lineage technology is outdated. It's not working anymore. I personally don't work with Reiki because of what it means. It's a lineage technology. You are brought into a lineage.
Yeah,
so I don't know if I want to tackle that on this call, because I think it would,
no. But I think it's important to just at least spend a minute on it, and the reason is because I resonate with this, because that we're like in this transition within the transition, and I still see people who I have a tremendous respect for, who are for lack of a better word, healers, and who are saying, hey, I can heal you. And I don't disagree with that, but not without the patient's or the client's approval or a belief even. But I see this starting to crack, and I see, because you do see a lot of authentic healers who will tell you, I'll work with a person 1, 2, 3 times. That's it, because I'm teaching them really what I do, basically.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So the issue with Reiki is the lineage tech aspect of it, which means that whoever's the highest being in that lineage is going to get dumped on by the karma of that lineage. And this was very helpful back in the day. Again, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, it's an outdated technology, just like almost all the ancient teachings these days, because they were designed to help a society get from 3rd dimension to 4th dimension. Well, now we're moving from 4th dimension to 5th dimension. And one thing that I get a lot of flack on personally is the 5th dimension you can't get there with anything other than yourself. No person on this planet, no matter how powerful they get, can take you to the 5th dimension. It doesn't work. No. You have to earn that on your own by letting go. Yeah. A person can help you by being, a wayshower of it. They can be an example, which is what we're all called to be, examples. Yes. But the 5th dimension itself, it's not possible. So Reiki and other technologies that help you to get from the 3rd to the 4th dimension are amazing, right? But once you get to that 4th dimension, Reiki actually pulls you back to the 3rd dimension, because it keeps disempowering you.
It's like,
for instance, Reiki goes from the Reiki source, right?
Yeah.
Self source is the key to 5th dimension. So as long as I give power to something outside of myself, I'm going to be pulled outside of myself. And the further I pulled outside of myself, the less I'm able to hear my own divine guidance. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I don't read or study other things, is because it takes you out of who you are.
And so it's like, it's like one game's over and one game's on.
Exactly.
It's like a new set of rules. I mean, I do my thing in my own way, and sometimes I put music on and just do a little, whatever comes. And so what would come out of my mouth is that we came into this thing, and I use the term, we came into this thing with the Akashic.
Okay.
And now we're taking our experiential, the experiential, and we're taking the incarnations, the life experiences, and all that we've had, and we're combining it with it. So it's like a new living library or a new frequency in the mode and in creation. It's a creation element. So if I'm not mistaken, what you're saying is that February 18th, it's like, we had all these restarts, and we get back to the point that we were when we got off track in Atlantis.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And what's beautiful about that is I'm one of many of the people who have waited for this moment and have known about it since we got here, basically. And we've been just compiling and preparing, building the infrastructure, getting everything ready. And all I can tell you is the future is brilliantly beautiful and beyond imagination. Because the people I've met in my journey alone have all got the same message. We're waiting for a certain time to bring out this technology that's going to change everything. And it's just beautiful to finally be to the point where in a few months it will finally be here, you know?
Yeah. And I can verify that too, you know, in the work that I do. Plus I'm in a divine conscious union with someone who's been doing it almost 20 years. And I've met a lot of people around the world, 650 shows that, you know, came on here for the first time, that have been, you know, without any notoriety, you know, doing the work etherically, like you said. And I love the way you use the word technology, because of course we want to think about, you know, you know, and all the internet stuff, but you're talking about the real technology here.
Yes.
You're talking about the work that you and the people that I'm talking about have laid down the, you know, the framework for that. And now they're starting to step up. And I am seeing that with people I talk to, and the ones that don't come on have been telling me, I know it's coming. I feel it. I know the time is coming. I'm not quite ready, but I have a feeling maybe in February, I'll get an avalanche of requests to come on.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah. I was nervous. Like the whole time before, I was like sitting there, I'm like, man, it's the first time I'm going to go out and actually talk about this stuff to the general public. I teach one-on-one. I don't usually go out and teach in big groups or anything anymore, because one-on-one's better. You can get everything you want that person to understand, because you're talking to them directly where they are and helping them to raise up to that point. And it's a beautiful process. So to teach like everyone that's going to watch this video these aspects is like, it was nerve-wracking a little bit at first, but now it feels pretty freeing to finally be here and to be sharing and expressing.
I really like the way excuse me, I really like the way you explain something that I think a lot of people have struggled with, because there's still remnants of the fear-based programming.
Yeah.
And that itself has expanded, as you described, as we moved from the third to the fourth to the fifth. And as you said, what was useful to us, like Reiki, for instance, up to a certain point no longer applies. Well, by the same token, this expansion of this fear-based programming, and what I'm getting at is that you're talking about how the I just lost my train of thought. That's 2 hours of sleep. No, but I had a real, it was the way you explained. Oh, I know what it was. When you said those that didn't accept to renegotiate would not make it. And then I said, well, does that mean they physically, you know, transition? You said, you don't know. Because a lot of people talk about, oh, well, there's a new earth over here, and there's another earth over here, and there's another earth over here, and try to conceptualize and explain this stuff. And the reality, what I loved about your explanation is you really don't know, but it's a possibility that there could be a tear, you know, in the cosmic fabric, and there is a place over here or another parallel or whatever where these folks go. But what I love about what you're saying is, for those 4 billion plus that have made the decision, we are walking into this higher ground that you've laid out on this chart.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to me, what I like to focus on is what's important to me. So I'm not one of those people that's going to choose not to renegotiate. I already did my renegotiation. It was amazing, and I'm very happy with the outcome. So I don't really worry about where they're going, because my job isn't to worry about them. My job is to be an example and to continue to move forward. Because if I can become better, then other people around me can see something that becomes better, and that gives them an opportunity to become better. If I worry about or spend time trying to understand where everyone else is going, that takes away from me becoming better.
Well, it's like you said too, for every 100 people, it does something exponentially.
Absolutely.
So what you're talking about, and I'm going to have a question here from my partner that applies to what you're saying, but it's almost like it's a wordless thing. It's you being the living example, the living life. Yeah. She says, will the old healing techniques still work with those attempting to shift out of the old paradigm?
So there's a challenge there with that. The old technologies work for third to fourth dimension, right? Like I said, so like if someone is stuck in a third dimensional reality, then working with Reiki is very helpful. It moves them to the fourth dimension. But once they get to that fourth dimension, that's when everything changes, right? Because if they use Reiki, now they're in the third dimension again. And I wanted to kind of talk about this with the body healing aspect. So fifth dimension is this. It's no thoughts and no pain. That's how you know you're in the fifth dimension. You literally have no thoughts. and you have no pain in the physical body. You feel like you're floating around. That's fifth dimension. Fourth dimension, you still feel like you're floating around. You have no pain, but you have lots of thoughts. And the reason you have thoughts is, sorry, say again?
You said lots of thoughts.
Lots of thoughts. Fourth dimensional beings are like very mental, very analyzing, need to know everything there is, but not want to understand it. They want to know it, which is a whole nother thing. And that's called the analyzers, which is the block between the fourth and the fifth dimension. Faith is what moves you to the fifth dimension, right? So trust is trusting in the analyzers, trusting in what you understand, what you know. That's fourth dimension. It's a high level. Third dimension is obligation. The only way I'm going to heal is if someone else helps me heal. That's obligation. I need someone else to do this. Fourth dimension is I can do this on my own and I still want some support. Fifth dimension is I am.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's nothing else. So that process of knowing whether you're in the fifth dimension or not is important, because every time you're in the fifth dimension, your body learns how to hold that longer. I wrote a note on my Facebook called Present Time, the Impossible Task, because holding present time becomes more difficult every time. You get to hold it longer, which means you get to experience the infinite nature longer. And to kind of hit on the Reiki concept and the outdated technology aspect, is Reiki is a timed technology. It was created inside of time to help with time. We are now moving into something called liquid time. So we need a timeless grid, something outside of time that is possible for all infinite nature, to begin to integrate into time so that we can break time once and for all. And that's the process of the next 6,000 years on this planet, is us figuring out how to do that. Now, that 6,000 years is the worst case scenario. It could happen in 100 years. You never know. It's all about humanity showing up and being the real reason they came here. Humans are some of the most beautiful and brilliant, amazing, capable beings. Our bodies are designed in ways we can't even understand and have yet to begin to understand. So as we begin to understand these bodies, we're going to start to see how amazing we are. We don't need any outside technology. We don't. It can help us to speed up the process. But as I've said multiple times over, ascension is a choice that you have to make, and you have to be willing to work through whatever comes up on that journey. And there are tools out there that help with that. That's very true. They're not required.
And so the tools really are a temporary aid until you get to the next point. The other thing I wanted to see if we could clarify a little bit, and I know we're not beating up on Reiki here. I just know that
no, Reiki is, like I said, it's very helpful for third to fourth dimension transition. Yeah,
and we're just using it as an example because that's something everybody can understand. It's pretty widespread. So
yes.
So you said, okay, so she had asked that question. You said that it was tricky because it could lift them out, but once they got to the next dimension, then it's not going to really help them anymore. Now,
absolutely,
if you turn it around and you have somebody who is doing Reiki for others and maybe lifting those people, helping those people to get to the next level, if they remain in that role, will they be at the third dimension, fourth dimension, and not be able to go into the fifth?
The challenge there is that it's totally dependent on each person. So doing Reiki on yourself is beneficial, right? Until it's not. And that's why it's important to understand when it's not, you don't keep relying on it. You go and explore.
Yeah.
So what you're referring to is a service contract. And as I said before, those are ending. They're no longer necessary.
Okay.
So if someone were to take Reiki and explore it, that's a different, that's alchemy, right? So now I'm exploring Reiki, I'm seeing what it's capable of. I'm not following these mandates and these rules and regulations and dogmas. I'm now just exploring and learning about the Reiki source. Well, that's cool. That could be beneficial. That could move you to the fifth dimension. That's a journey forward.
Right.
You see, when there are rules and regulations that hold you in a certain space and you only live by that, that's called a fixed idea. And it's going to be heavier and heavier and heavier with each passing day. And eventually it's going to make you sick.
Yeah. And I say, you throw absolutes down on the universe and it just becomes more and more uncomfortable, especially as we progress, because everything seems to be getting louder and louder and more in your face.
Absolutely. And it will get louder and louder and more in your face by a lot as we progress forward.
Yeah. So now I'm just curious. I don't want to get we're moving fast here, but so I mean, you've spent a lot of time, and I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, this is a daily ritual for a lot of people I've talked to. It's 5-6 hours a day of what we would call downloading and automatic writing and documentation and whatever. This has been your existence for a long time, right?
Yeah. I would say longer than 6 hours a day. My average day is 21 hours. Usually during those 21 hours without the sleep, I'm working with clients and students. So I'm downloading during that part as well. But I also write technology. So I wrote my own modality. I wrote tons of activations, over 1,000 or no, over 5,000 something of them at this point. So I've spent my whole life preparing for what comes in February. My company, everything that we've worked behind the scenes to do, steps out into the open in January. So it's this huge final relief of like, I don't have to carry this alone anymore. It's time for the world to step up and make their choices. Yeah. And I kind of just want to take a little bit of time to explain another thing that happened on the 21st, because I feel it's relevant to what you're discussing. So all of the keepers, they were called the 144, and their jobs were to run teams that did all this grid working all over the world. They were also designed to find all of those in the lineages and to take on these sacred artifacts, these crystals, these magical, basically, talismans that hold all this information and codes that have been lost to civilization. The Hawaiians, the Maori, the Aboriginals, all of those people did the same thing. So they got these crystals and they encoded them with all this information and passed them down from lineage to lineage to lineage. On November 21st, every one of those sacred artifacts were given back to the ocean. Every single one of them. All of the team leads led their teams, and they dumped everything in the ocean within a 3-day window to shatter the old grid. All the information, all the secrets were given back. So there are no more secrets hidden anymore. They're all in the collective, because the ocean symbolizes that collective. So what's cool about the ocean is that as the waves run over those crystals, the information goes into the water. As it rains, that information is shared all over the world. Water touches everything eventually.
So it's like ice cubes melting.
Yeah.
Like crystals
over time, it will perfectly give it to us.
Yeah.
But there are no secret keepers anymore. Everything that has been hidden from humanity, the good, the bad, the ugly, it doesn't matter. All of it is now here on the earth, open and waiting to be disseminated out there. But no one's holding it. No human being is holding over information or keeping something secret. It's all now at the divine flow. And that was one of the biggest things that changed the world. When there were no more secret keepers, people who were tasked with holding on to something until it was time, that's like, I don't even know how to say it to you other than just, I'm very happy with the future.
I get it. And I can see too, something I've been seeing out there energetically. And again, I'm not throwing anything on anybody. I'm just making an observation. And that is a lot of people that have been receiving stuff, and you're calling them secret keepers, and truly were and are going to have to let go of that part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? On a personal level. The other thing I wanted to point out too, because I love your explanations. Another thing I see even the light keeper community struggling a little bit with is the global aspect, the governments and the disclosure and this and that and all that. But it sounds to me like, with what you've described today, that just as the description of those who weren't accepting it wouldn't survive it, or there could be a tear and another alternate reality take place, it's like the global part of this is really just going to reflect us, and would match, maybe there's one, maybe there's two, or however that works. But it sounds like it's going to flow with us, whatever consciousness we're carrying forward. Yeah. So
what I learned when I was young was, don't pay attention to the world, because the world is temporary, and the only thing that's immortal is me. And so I have to work on me. Yeah. And what I teach my students at the very beginning is this: everyone in the world is perfect, and everything else in the world is perfect except for me, until someone tells me otherwise. So if I don't have any students, it means that I'm the one that needs to work on myself. So I work on myself, and then a student appears with a question. And usually it's whatever I just solved. But it's how it works. So the world reflects that same dynamic. If I don't worry about the world, then I don't put extra burden on the world. I just worry about myself, work on myself as best I can, and the world changes.
That's right.
And I've seen it so many times in my life, it's just impossible for me to doubt it anymore.
Wow. That's
but it also saves you a ton of worry, because what's going on in the world isn't matter. It doesn't stop you from being yourself. There is nothing in this world that will ever take away your choice. It just won't, because it can't.
That's right. Wow.
We are the only ones that take away our choice.
So you're going to unveil your company or step out in January?
Yep.
Yeah.
And in February, we're going to start actually going out into the world, all of us, and start teaching classes, workshops all over the world. It's going to be a really big step forward. The thing that's really cool about my company is we believe that everything is on love donation unless it's time for time based. So time for time means like me teaching you one-on-one, you're paying for my time, you're not paying for my wisdom. But when I teach groups, I always do it on love donation, because it's not me teaching you, it's me teaching everyone, and I can't balance that time for time because I'm not sitting specifically with you. So you'll see that our organization will do all of its offerings on love donation.
Yeah, and that's using different semantics, but that's what I've received since it's, well, really before, but really big time this summer in regard to Soulogy. And I use the words 5D commerce, which is based on the honor system, paying things forward, but it's the same thing you're talking about. And since then, have watched it occur, and expand a little bit more every day. And not just in the resource that we call, or the energy we call money, but in other things, in events. And I mean, I ended up in Hawaii, just a snap of a finger. And I was, it was that energy that you're talking about, that frequency that we're walking into, in that celestial city vibration. That's what I'm seeing and feeling. And the other thing that really jumps out at me today too is the whole thing with the water, in my own personal experience. So, I was in Sedona, and then I went and did some stuff on the East Coast, and then I got the message, you got to go to Hawaii. And I'm like, okay. The water has been, and I've been holed down in the room, doing a lot of work, trying to get the network off the ground. But the water has just been like, in my face, man. Like, I mean, last night I was up about 2 a.m. and I went outside, and I'm about, 10-minute walk from the beach, but I can't, but I'm at a higher altitude, and you have to go down, and I couldn't hear, you can't normally hear the waves, but man, last night I could hear them. Like, what is that? And they were just like, you could just hear them. And it was different. And it sent a message to me, like, you need to get back down there.
You're at ground zero. So Hawaii is where the project was launched. So some of the most powerful secrets were put in the ocean right off Maui. So just so you understand, you were literally ground zero. I have a few students in Hawaii, and they're dealing with a ton of stuff because they're ground zero. So all of the other ripples that are coming through the ocean from all the different locations in the world, from the 144, are syncing up at a point right off of Maui, because it's where Atlantis is, underneath the water, is like in that area. So the energy is running through it, and it's like rippling, and you're getting the brunt of it because you're ground zero. So I would definitely be in that water. You're going to learn so much fast getting in that ocean.
Well, I have gone in there, and I did, the last time I went in there, I had one hell of a, what I called I actually had two multidimensional experiences in the water.
Yeah.
And it was, and the last one was just incredible. Now, I don't know what the people on the beach were thinking, because I was in the middle of the water making all these gyrations and stuff. But yeah, this is powerful. I am so pleased and honored to, that you called or messaged me and reached out to me. I want you to know that, these things that you've got coming, if you need any help, any support to expand awareness of it, come back on, do some more shows. We're putting a network into place. We're not linear anymore, so I'm not going to mention any dates or anything, but we're really, really close. And we're looking for, as I've been directed, we're looking for people to do just this, to do the instruction and the teachings and everything, and we're looking at an infinitely multiple channeled network available, you know, with the technology that we have, a handheld app, that type of thing. So if there's anything Soulogy can do or I can do to support what you're doing, I'm open to that, and I just want to let you know that.
Thank you very much. That means a lot. It's beautiful, the support that we've found so far and the support that we're able to offer others. So thank you. I look forward to telling you more about it later on.
I do. I do too. And I'm really pleased. There's 55 in the house. That means something too. But well, listen, I don't know what you're doing the rest of the month. But I don't know if you'd be interested in hooking back up. We're going to be doing some, well, you know, I'll just leave it at that, and not really point any dates out, but feel free, you know, if you'd like to, you know, come back in a few days, in a week, and do something else, and just keep it going as long as it resonates with you. It certainly does with me. And I do feel, I can say confidently, I can see the energy of the audience as I've done this for you know, going on 700 shows now, and I can see that they're very receptive to it. So it's needed. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for putting up with me.
You're most welcome. Can I say one last thing? I know that we're close to time, but this is what I really want to share, because this is how we move forward right now. So first of all, fear is a natural part of the process, and that's very important to understand. So what I'm going to just say really quick is fear leads to bravery, bravery leads to courage, courage leads to confidence. So when you're in a fear space, not a danger space, but a fear space, it's an opportunity for you to show your body that you have that bravery needed to take ownership, to step forward and say, hey, I'm afraid, but this is new for me. And if I step through this, I won't be afraid in the future. And every time you do that, you move towards confidence. And the highest dimensional currency that there will ever be in a physical world is confidence. True confidence, not fake confidence. So today I had fear, and I stepped into it to make this call, because for me to expose myself to the world and say, hey, I'm here, it's time, was a big call for me. But I stepped forward. And I'm asking anyone else out there who's fear, like they're afraid for the, you know, moving forward, to step out too, because it's time. So this is my global call to everyone out there who's ready. Please come out. It's safe.
Yeah. Right on, man. Usually I have a lot to say, but I don't have anything to say, and I'm a talker. You said it all.
So much.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, definitely would love to get back together with you in a week or so, or anytime after that. But as you ramp up, we ramp up, we're ramping up too. So there's no coincidence with that.
No,
I'm just going to go take
infrastructure. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm going to go take a long walk and go pay my respects to the ocean here in a minute.
Say hi.
I'll do that. Man, it was a pleasure meeting you, brother. Thank you so much for the work you've done on behalf of humanity. And I look forward to collaborating with you many, many, many more times. And I hope to meet you someday. Where are you located?
Texas, Dallas.
Oh, that's right. I grew up in
Hawaii, though. I did a workshop out there and did some work on the ocean. So
wow. I grew up in Irving.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm in Louisville, which is right next to.
Oh, you're in Louisville.
Yeah.
I grew up in the late 70s building. Well, I was painting houses in Louisville, on Lake Louisville, when there was nothing out there but snakes and animals.
Wow.
Yeah. So
well, gives away coincidences. So
that gives away my age, but age is relative now.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate everything again. Thank you for reaching out and being persistent with me. And I look forward to the next show we do together.
Thank you again. Have a blessed and beautiful day.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you for stepping through your fears, bro.
You're welcome.
All right. We'll see you later. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back.